impacting across sectors. As the CEO of Walker's Legacy Foundation and a managing director for Walker's Legacy, her thought leadership and experience supports a global growth strategy and includes a diverse suite of partners, enhanced programming, and board development as the organization's focus on serving more multicultural women entrepreneurs. Ms. Abrams is a champion for experienced entrepreneurs and has a deep knowledge and lived experience as a veteran business owner. Previously, she served at the March on Washington Film Festival as executive director. She's on the advisory board for the University of Guyana Foundation. And interesting note, my family is from Guyana, so for the Guyana Economic Development Trust and early stage impact companies. Ms. Abrams is a member of Chief, a private network for women executives, sits on the board of directors for the Black Public Media and 6 Degrees, and is founding board member of the Social Justice School. And this is not her full bio. It's no one's full bio. I did not read anybody's full bio today. So again, the experience and power and just dedication in this room is amazing. But she's a mom, a business owner, and so much more. We are delighted to welcome Samantha Abrams.
Good morning, everyone. This is just such a special occasion to be invited to share with you all. Thank you so much to Administrator Guzman, SBA leaders. It's good to see familiar faces and friends. The council, Tanae, thank you. I won't belabor my bio. You can read it. But this morning, I believe I have a message to share. And it's a message that honors Black History Month and a message that reminds entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and women in business to bet on ourselves, bet on you. Entrepreneurs create employment opportunities not only for themselves, but for others as well. I was born in Georgetown, Guyana. Guyana is the most beautiful country on the northernmost tip of South America. It happens to be the only English-speaking country on the continent. And I moved here just almost 30 years ago. I come from a rich legacy of entrepreneurship, starting with my grandmother, Ruby. My grandmother birthed 14 children, 14. So she had to be clever and innovative and creative as she journeyed through life, finding ways to take good care of her family. So at about 10 years old, my mom, Marva, and her younger sister, Esther, was recruited by my grandmother to take her fresh pastries and early morning good treats and sell them to school kids before they went to school. My Aunt Esther would ride the bike and my mom would carry the product, and they knew how to market, brand, sell, pitch, bank, all words that are so synonymous in entrepreneurship today. But my grandmother would have never called herself a founder or an entrepreneur back in those 50s days. This legacy truly was passed on to my mother and then to me. So when I think about what drives me and who I am, these qualities are truly intrinsic. I like knowing that this is my identity, and it really allows me to pay homage to my grandmother. Once my parents decided that they were going to get married, they left and went to Canada for a little while. They had my sister in the most awful snowstorm in a place called Winnipeg, Winterpeg, AKA. A few years later, they found out they were having me, and my mom said, I don't want to be here. Get me out of here. It's too cold. They went back to Guyana and had me. Why I share this story? It was the catalyst for a rich entrepreneurial heritage and legacy that my mother founded and again passed on. You see, my mom had to figure out how to make life from a country she had left and returned to. My father went to work for the government, and my mom started what became a garment factory. So she patented pot holders and oven mittens. In the Caribbean, we rarely imported things like that. So she had the clever idea that she was going to make these pot holders and oven mittens. And when we think of lived experiences, I had a lived experience that it didn't make sense until fast forward in my life. I was going with my mom to the general stores, listening to her sell and pitch and market her product and secure new vendors. I had no idea. That's where I learned my sales skills from. Fast forward many years later, our company became one of the fastest growing companies in Guyana, but we left. Why? For opportunities. The story that you shared, Mark, resonates so much with me. My parents left everything behind because the United States of America, they knew, had and boasted opportunities where their 4 children could come and take advantage of. So sometimes we feel like we're not sure where these paths take us, but that's exactly why we're here today. And the stories are even more important. I want to pause and just talk a little bit about stories and listening to the stories of our business owners, particularly Black and brown women. You see, when we hear these stories about women, we get to learn more about who they really are, why they start these businesses, what was bubbling in their bellies that allowed them to just go forth, go bold, and borrow from themselves. But how do we disrupt that bootstrapping without straps? And really give Black and brown women in particular an opportunity to really bolster their work. We gave that up, moved here, great. In the late 90s, I said to myself while I was in college, we gave up so much, and I want my parents to have what they gave up because I felt like we stole from them. Even though as parents, we know that never happens, right? So I had to write this business plan. I was so annoyed with Dr. Reback, my research statistics professor. He would walk around with his cowboy boots, Mark, like yours, and a pipe. And he said, I need a business plan. I was like, what? So I wrote a business plan and I called it Sapadilla's Caribbean Restaurant. 16 years later, we're still in business. What does all of this mean? It really is the embodiment of the body of work that I get to lead. It informs me every single day. It inspires me every single day. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the CEO and managing director for Walker's Legacy. And Walker's Legacy is a springboard for entrepreneurial Black and brown women and the ecosystems that their growth fuel. Our goal is to cultivate an ecosystem that is truly sustainable, because we know that when Black and brown women start businesses, we do so with an inherent understanding that we do this for our communities. We do this as generational legacy builders. It is our responsibility. It's a responsibility that we take seriously because we can't pretend that the systems currently exist support our lived experiences, how and why we launch businesses, and how and why we need to be a part of a legacy for future generations so that they can inherit something more significant than where we started. My children are first generation American. They would say they're spoiled, but they're not brats. We won't do this work alone. We believe there's an urgent interdependency needed to drive this work successfully. Additionally, we're fortunate to have an incredible network of co-creators and partners to deconstruct silos, to provide entrepreneurs we serve with culturally competent resources, tools, connections, and capital stacks. I want to pause there because when we think of capital, we always think of the financial capital and the other technical training and support. I want us to embed and understand that the social capital piece is as equally important. And we need to double down on that. I need folks to be anti-gatekeepers. Move out the way. To date, I'm going to share a little bit about Walker's legacy. We have connected more than 1,000 Black and Brown women-led small business to more than $60 million in funding and more than $250 million in corporate, state, local government, nonprofit grants and contracts. Again, Aditi, you shared, this is good, right? It's not enough. It's not enough. Our programs support small businesses and startups from their earliest. So if you have an idea on the back of a napkin, come to Walker's Legacy. If you are in the midst of growing or needing to figure out how to grow and bolster your company, we have a program for you too. And if you just want to stop by and, share, we'll take you too. For example, one of the most recent cohorts, we actually graduated a cohort of 17 companies last week. They are revenue generating women of color, 15 cities across the US, innovating within a broad set of industries, including athleisure, small business cybersecurity, energy equity, infertility healthcare, and tech-enabled professional services. These women boast more than 40,000 customers and more than $105,000 in monthly reoccurring revenue. We don't have to ask if these businesses that these women are serving and running have social impact. We know that anything we start has impact on the onset, right? So it's most fantastic to be in a space to be able to serve, and we just don't have to ask. It just feels like a gift for me. Social impact and profit should and will run in alignment as long as we continue bolstering Black and Brown women entrepreneurs. They're interconnected, and we shouldn't be shy about saying anything about that. Walker's Legacy also has the privilege of operating a minority business development agency business center in Birmingham, Alabama. The first time I went to the office, I had something that just came upon me because I started walking the streets and realized that just one block away was the 16th Street Baptist Church. Across the street is Kelly Park. I had the honor of meeting Sarah Collins, who was that little girl who lost her sister and friends during the 16th Street bombing. The backdrop as I sat in the conference room, A.G. Gaston Motel. A.G. Gaston, since we're celebrating Black History Month, each day the team is physically and spiritually greeted by the people who bled and died in the streets in Birmingham so that I can stand here today, so that we can be here today. And that backdrop of A.G. Gaston Motel reminds us who he was and what we're doing today. So A.G. Gaston was a prominent Black businessman in Birmingham. His journey began to entrepreneurship while working in the mines as a teenager. He then sold lunches, innovation and creativity. They had a need, he met the demand. He went on to sell burial insurance that then went on to grow into an insurance company. It was called the Booker T. Washington insurance company. He purchased and renovated buildings, and the motel is still standing there, and on and on and on and on. He was amazing. But I share that story because it really ties into where we are and where we sit and why we do what we do. And this backdrop of the A.G. Gaston Motel, because it's a reminder that this movement continues today. The civil rights continues. The movement continues. It's just an economic civil rights movement. So we can't forget that. We have to remember to invest in communities of color, invest in women, particularly Black and brown women. For decades, we've been underfunded. I don't want to keep repeating that story. It's time we move on. We're the cavalry. We know what to do. We have the resources. We have the intelligence. We have the knowledge bank. We have historically not been able to borrow money as often. And fast forward to the pandemic, it has been apparent how wide the economic gap is for people of color, particularly women. But you see, women are special. We give birth. Whether you give physical birth to a human being or birth ideas that spur innovation and creativity, we bring life into this world that gives life, that fuels life. When women start businesses, we launch these businesses as a lever of change for generational wealth and legacy building through entrepreneurship. I come from a proud, long line of practitioners of manifestation. What does that mean? I personally believe that we all come downloaded. We come downloaded with instructions on how to journey through life. And if we listen carefully and live life on the alert, pay attention, embrace it, we'll have those instructions. Black History Month is the epitome of innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, where we honor African Americans' triumphs and struggles through U.S. history. However, women's history in particular is fraught with silence and gaps because of the dangers associated with slavery, freeborn, notwithstanding how historical data is collected. So these are the stories I talk about and the importance of sharing stories. Many years ago, I read a book and I learned about a pretty awesome woman named Mary Ellen Pleasant. Mary Ellen Pleasant, there isn't enough about her, like her family, her parents, if she was born free or enslaved. But what I do know about Mary Ellen Pleasant is she figured out a way to grow an empire through domestic labor, using her social capital, because in San Francisco, the folks who were around her, she was able to unlock that and use it for her good. And then the second one I recently more so learned about was Biddy Mason. She was an African-American nurse, a real estate investor, and a philanthropist. She was Los Angeles' first African-American woman millionaire. Biddy was a real, Biddy, you have to read Biddy's story. She was a disruptor, but a responsible one. She was born into slavery and she could free herself. She worked to free herself and her children. And of course, we can't forget the legacy of Madam C.J. Walker, in which Walker's legacy was founded. And I must say and pay tribute to A'Lelia Bundles, because when our founder thought about this and wanted to launch Walker's Legacy, she did go to A'Lelia and ask for permission and blessing. And A'Lelia, who sat on the board for the March on Washington Film Festival, gave her that blessing. So shout out to A'Lelia. Madam C.J. Walker created an empire. She taught us what a network of women could really do. By the time of her death, she had 500 agents. Y'all remember Home Interiors and all those other Mary Kay and Avon? I was like, this is who she is. This is the legacy that she transitioned to us. Mary Ellen and her success, Madam C.J. Walker and her success, they had decades of it, but their careers shared so many attributes. Mary Ellen transformed her domestic labor into an enterprise, and she had an income for 8 houses in San Francisco and a ranch near Sonoma. Walker's Legacy's global financial enterprise and Mary Ellen reached across the world, and they've passed down to generations. It's interesting where we are now in society. There's a bit of selfishness, self-centeredness, narcissistic and ego-led, ego-driven world. But that's not what these people that I just shared, that's not what they embodied. And that's not what we embody. We are a collective of people who truly embrace making a way for others. There's a quote that I found out Biddy would share, but it's something that my parents raised me. In order to receive, you have to have your hand out. So that means you have to be willing to always give in order to receive. A little bit about where we are around women and raising capital. I remembered when we were looking to launch our business, we went to all kinds of banks. We had collateral, we had homes. I even had my 401k. No one would lend us money. And that was okay because we took a bet on ourselves. We borrowed some money from our home. I took some money from my 401k. And a week later, I had my baby. We went to the bank, wrote one business check. And again, 16 years later, our restaurant is still standing and soon to have a second. But the trauma and the stress that comes with women searching and looking and turning every mattress open, looking for funding, it shouldn't be. It's not fair. If we can launch businesses like these and sustain them by employing people, by fueling our families and our communities, doesn't it make sense to open up the coffers? Because you see, when we launch businesses, our communities do well, our families do well, and our global standing or our standing in a global economy is further bolstered. Walker's Legacy is now focused on ecosystem building so that we can really double down on all of what I've shared. So you'll see a whole lot more of coalition building. Back in November, we launched the Capital Ready Coalition with 16 other national organizations who represent millions of Black and brown women, including entrepreneurs. We're going to use these partnerships to leverage our collective voice in demanding shifts, seismic shifts, that really bolster our ability to gain, not just to survive our businesses, but really to thrive in our businesses. Our programming, again, because of my experience in watching my parents build and building alongside them, I think of access. Remember, my family left everything behind, including my dear fruit trees, by the way. I had 15 of them. They were amazing. But we left because of opportunity, access to opportunity. So our goal is not just to think about how we create opportunities, but how we, again, move out the way and use this network to create access. We're thinking more about how we service and provide and best equip. So you'll never hear me use the word help. I'm not here to help anyone. Women are born and downloaded with so much power, so we don't need help. We need you to be bold and responsibly disruptive and be true allies with us. You'll see more programming coming out from Walker's Legacy that focuses on the Caribbean and the continent. There are women on the continent of Africa who want to do business with people in the United States of America. So how do we create that cross-pollinative connection? I just want to be a portal. We just want to be a portal. We think about technology. Aditi shared Administrator Guzman's commitment to technology. If you have a business and you have a website, you're likely able to do work anywhere and have customers everywhere. So I'd love to figure out with you how we think more about democratizing access around technology in particular. We'll continue to further diversify our partnerships and our investment partners. So we don't have sponsors, we have partners. So I invite you to be a partner, whether it's investment funding or just serving as a mentor. We welcome you as a partner. We want to tell the stories of the companies we're partnering with, not just so they can reach their ESG goals or their CSR goals or their D&I goals, but really think about real commitment. So for my corporate friends, as someone who was birthed in corporate, if you are an internal champion, think about how you're making space for those supplier diversity opportunities. What are you sharing that could be so transformative in a small business that you could potentially partner with? So share. As it stands now, economists have predicted that it'll take Black people 228 years to catch up to white wealth. So here's the thing, I'm not interested in that. Because I'm not using that as a measuring stick, right? And we shouldn't. We should think about how we create an ecosystem where all people have opportunity to achieve success the way they want to define it. I think I'm pretty wealthy, even though my bank account doesn't say, but I'm pretty wealthy. How do we think about wealth? How do we think about success? How do we give space and make space for folks who, Black women in particular, define success at every stage? This work, it's not hard work for me. It's passion work. My team teases me because I tell them all the time, it's heart work. And I'm incredibly grateful to be able to partner with the team to do this every day. I don't believe in happenstance either. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is where each of us is supposed to be, right here, right now, living in this purpose. So purpose is throughout our life, and it's not singular. There's a collective declaration that we as Black women deserve to be seen and not just having a great idea, but understand that we are inherently entrepreneurial, savvy business leaders, and really innovative. So let's focus on turning opportunities into real access. Let's partner to identify the most favorable and optimal solutions, changes that we all can be a part of. So as I come to a close in sharing these words with you, again, think about how you can be a portal for access, how you can serve as a conduit for change, how you can speak up and speak out and be unapologetically bold in supporting women businesses, but especially Black and brown women businesses. So as we celebrate Black History Month and this council's 35th anniversary, I am exceptionally enthusiastic and excited to see what we as a collective, both here in this room and to you on Zoom, will be able to deliver for American women. Thank you.
And still she rises. I am proud and amazed at the strength, resiliency, and undeniable